When Lee was born, we were absolutely overjoyed. I'd always wanted a little boy. He was 6.5 months. I got up one morning and he was feeling a bit hot. So I gave him some Calpol, try and bring his temperature down a bit. Didn't like the way he was breathing. His breathing didn't seem right. So I went and got a neighbour. She come across and we got straight on the phone for a doctor. And the doctor came straight out and said that he needed to get him to hospital quick because he was really poorly. It was frightening because the doctor didn't even know what was wrong. He knew he needed to get him into hospital. They said they were testing him for pneumonia and meningitis. It was when they were getting him settled into the cot, I started noticing these purple blotches appearing on his body. I asked the nurse, "What's this? What's happening?" And she immediately got the doctor and then it was just waiting to see what was happening, and then it was explained to her that he had meningococcal septicemia and it was really touch and go as to whether he was going to survive or not.
Recently, my mum showed me some photos of me ill with meningitis, with the blackness on my fingers. My mum obviously felt I was old enough to see them and decide what I wanted to do with them. I took them home and had a look through them.
The sister that was on the ward, Carrie Lee, she brought him in, took him straight down for the specialist to see him. And the specialist come out and explained what they needed to do. They were taking him to theatre and they thought that the septicemia had gone into his guts. He said that then they would just stitch him back up, and unfortunately he was sorry, but there was nothing they'd be able to do. The next hurdle was because of the septicemia, he would lose his hands and both his feet. The plastic surgeon, apparently when they took him down and she'd had a good look at him, said she didn't want to cut. She didn't know why, but she just had this feeling that something was happening. She just felt she needed to wait. She said she wasn't going to do anything. She would just let it go its own course. Waited until they actually just died off themselves. Lost down to his knuckles on his left hand, his fingertips on his right hand. And then not long after that, they said we could take him home.
Since I was a young kid, I've always loved football. I'm football mad. I think I'm blessed to have a very successful career so far, especially after undergoing the knife. I was 12 years old when I got picked to play in a 5-side tournament in Derby. I was represented as goalkeeper to the under-16 team, which we lost in the semi-final. One day the Sunday Sun actually contacted me for an interview and I was put into a double spread article. The next day they rang me back again and said that Shea Given had read the newspaper and wanted to meet me. He invited me to the Newcastle United training ground. I spoke to him about what I had gone through and about football. It was great receiving some goalkeeping tips. Shea gave me an autograph framed photograph of himself and a Newcastle goalkeeper kit. It was one of the greatest days of my life. One of the reasons I've always loved football is because there's no barriers in football, where I could truly be myself in the field. But sadly that's not the same for us deaf people in everyday life. I do not believe that I have any barriers. I think all deaf people should have a job as we possess skills and knowledge. We're all equal to hearing people, if not better than some hearing people. People out there, they always pigeonhole us and I wish it was like that on the football field. I think something needs to be done to improve accessibility for deaf people and make it easier for us to get work. The only thing that separates us is our inability to hear. After leaving college, I managed to secure a job with AVS, but unfortunately after 6 months I was made redundant and I have been looking for a job ever since. It's like finding a needle in a haystack except there's no needle. I've been unemployed for a year now. I'm struggling to control my finances. It was during that period when my real father was one day complaining at a sore throat and refused to go to the hospital. Finally though, he did decide that he would go and went with his wife. He came and he said, "I've got some news." I went down to visit him and he told me he had throat cancer. This was a huge shock. They had been for chemotherapy and radiotherapy and had been given the all clear. We were relieved and over the moon. I had been praying every day that he was going to be okay. Then a few weeks later, we noticed his legs were swelling and he was complaining he couldn't breathe. We went back to the hospital. They noticed something was wrong. The cancer had spread all the way through his chest. It's impossible to do anything about it. Dad told me that he had got a few weeks to live, and that was the biggest shock. I looked at my dad, he looked at me, and he looked like he wasn't bothered. I thought I had the bravest dad in the world. I spoke to my dad, father to son, about everything, and he said for the last time ever was, "Continue as you are." Then that was it, and he was only 51 years old. But his memories lived on forever. So, following my dad's last words to me, I've been to the job centre a few times, but I also had the idea to look at Royal Mail website, and I got the interview through that. Today is the day of my Royal Mail interview. I'm really nervous, but I think I've prepared myself well. I will never forget the people who have been there for me in my life. I am grateful to them. I will forever remember them, especially my dad.